Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to use my time to kind of speak of Windsor's challenges and our successes, and basically how we're looking to move forward. So the City of Windsor is a single-tier municipality. We're responsible for all assets excluding our municipal drinking water, which is administered by our local utility company. We are a small growth community with approximately 220,000 citizens. We're located south of Detroit, Michigan, and we're surrounded by the Great Lakes. Our topography is very flat, definitely in comparison to Vancouver, and the majority of our community is located on heavy clay soils. So, as Canada's southernmost city, we're used to experiencing hot and humid days throughout the summer. In 2000, we averaged just over 20 days where the temperature exceeded 30 degrees. However, our climate predictions suggest that by 2071, we could have over 60 days above 30 degrees. We could also have approximately 40 days when the temperature does not drop below 20 degrees Celsius at night. In 2011, the city, along with Health Canada, undertook a heat health vulnerability study to determine the possible outcomes of extreme hot days. The bottom right graph is Windsor's relative mortality compared to temperature. To develop this curve, all non-traumatic deaths are plotted against the maximum daily temperature on the day of death. As you can see, the relative mortality begins to climb at 20 degrees Celsius. So what as a city can we do to help start reducing that risk? And similar to the increase in the number of hot days, the city is also experiencing an increase in our annual average precipitation. Our climate normal precipitation is 918 millimeters per year. However, looking at our data since 2000, we are now averaging about 1,043 millimeters per year. But more importantly, the intensity of rainfall events is what's concerning, and you'll see why in a moment. So Windsor has experienced a number of extreme events over the last decade that have greatly impacted the community. I'll just highlight those from the last year. The first was 2 tornadoes that touched down in August 2016, one in the town of LaSalle and the second that touched down in Windsor. The one tornado traveled through the center of Windsor, impacting neighborhoods, the expressway, and the city's transit facility. It is estimated that over $100,000 was required for the closure of the expressway and for the cleanup of debris. The transit facility also experienced over $800,000 of insured losses. The photo on the bottom right is that of the PV, the photovoltaic system that was installed just before the tornado, which was destroyed. It took a year to get the solar panels replaced. Though the capital cost associated with replacing the panels was covered by insurance, the city still lost approximately $260,000 in revenue from the panels, which was not covered by insurance. In September 2016, the city received over 200 millimeters of rain in 12 hours, exceeding our 100-year event. This event caused basement flooding over 3,000 homes. The City of Windsor and the town of Tecumseh declared a state of emergency, and the province initiated a disaster recovery assistance program. However, this program only covers losses due to overland flooding, for example, if a stream or a river overflows and enters the homes through windows and doors. It does not include sewer backups in the homes, which is what occurred at the majority of homes in Windsor. The city's sewers, drains, and ponds functioned as they were designed, but there was just too much rain in too little time. The second 1-in-100-year event occurred on August 2017. So these pictures are just a snapshot of the flooding that occurred. Major intersections flooded, basements flooded. This map shows each of the more than 6,000 homes that reported basement flooding. Through this map, you can see the clear path of the storm through the City of Windsor. Similar to the 11 months earlier, this storm exceeded the 100-year design storm, and all the sewers, drains, functioned as designed. Again, just too much rain in too little time. The province was again called in to assist. However, the program still doesn't help with the majority of those impacted through basement flooding. This was the largest single flood event in Windsor's history. The totals for damages are still being tallied. However, we expect the cleanup cost to top $400,000. These are images showing the loss of personal property from the flood. To highlight the scope, on an average weekly collection day, one truck can collect from 300 homes between transfers. During this event, one truck was filled within approximately 3 homes. The city required outside contractors to help with the collection. We don't yet have a number for the insured losses. However, we do know that one facility, the Brentwood Recovery Home, reported over $2 million in damages alone. These events impact the city's operational budgets as well as our reputation. But we also result in a lot of pain and stress within our community. The City of Windsor has tried to be proactive by starting our climate change adaptation plan early. We started in 2010. In 2012, City Council approved our first adaptation plan, which focuses on increasing temperatures and precipitation. The plan includes actions such as creating an urban heat island study, increasing capital for shade, improvement and enhancement of green space to improve rainwater retention, basement flooding, mitigation strategies, enhancing sewer maintenance and CTV programs, to name just a few. As with all cities, Windsor has been working hard to upgrade our sewer system and replacing our combined sewers. Since 2001, approximately $500 million has been spent on sewer projects. Another action in our climate change adaptation plan was to review our IDF, or rainfall intensity curve. This review was completed by the Ontario Climate Consortium, which looked at 5 different climate models, including 2 global climate models and 3 regional models. Depending on the model and the data available, 2 different emission scenarios were also compared. This graph is for the 100-year return period for the 2090s. I choose this for reference, as the infrastructure we are building today, we hope to still be useful in 2090. The very bottom black line is what we're currently designing to. The gray band outlines the 10th to 90th percentile of all the climate models completed. This wide band represents the uncertainty we're facing when designing to the future climate impacts. However, these curves will be part of the evidence we need to move forward as we determine the best strategy to deal with our increasing extreme precipitation. Other information we will be looking at is our historical extremes and our known vulnerabilities. Though our adaptation plan was approved in 2012, we just finalized our climate change mitigation plan in July 2017. Our targets include a reduction in both energy use and greenhouse gas emissions by 40% below 2014 levels by 2041 for the community. The corporate targets include a 25% reduction in energy use and a 40% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions below 2014 by 2041. Actions outlined in the plan include implementation of the upcoming Active Transportation Master Plan, transitioning to alternative fuel vehicles, including electric, building retrofits, and renewable energy. So the city's Environmental Sustainability and Climate Change Office, which includes myself and one other full-time person, are responsible for the city's Environmental Master Plan, the Climate Change Adaptation, and the Community Energy Plan. However, we also support on other relevant plans, including the Parks Master Plan, Active Transportation, etc. Keeping momentum in all these plans with 2 staff is challenging. However, we found creative ways to integrate our priorities into the corporation. Here's a summary of how we've traditionally built success for our actions. First, we found opportunities for collaboration by successfully aligning priorities in other departments. Another unique strategy we've used is the hiring of co-op students with a set project in mind. The students are placed in the department where we expect the actions to occur. The student reports daily to the department but receives technical support from our department. This in turn develops project champions within departments and transfers ownership of the actions to that department. To further enhance this, we provide departments with tools to enhance their work. So one good example of this being successful is for 2 summers, my department retained students who work directly with the parks development staff to assess thermal comfort in our city parks. Working alongside the park staff allowed challenges to be addressed. The thermal gun was used by the students to determine if the thermal gun used by the students remains in the parks department. That allows the department to continue to assess the parks for thermal comfort. So if you look at the 2 images on that slide, you can see where, again, urban heat island and thermal comfort is of growing importance to the City of Windsor. So you can see a brand new playground. The more yellow or the whiter the color in the bottom actually shows the hotter temperatures. So in this case, that rubber matting that's under that playground on a 22-degree day was actually 72 degrees Celsius on that matting. So part of what we need to do moving forward is we need to, we're putting the rubber matting in for accessibility and lower operational costs, but at the same time, moving forward, we need to address how are we going to shade the site to improve thermal comfort. So we start making a bigger picture around our assets. Another thing we've done is we've clearly added into RFPs what the consultants need to review. For example, in our recent RFP for the Active Transportation Master Plan, the RFP states recommendations will support at a minimum the desired level of active transportation as recommended in the Community Energy Plan. In addition, the RFP spells out the supporting skills that will be required to complete the project. In this case, it includes energy and greenhouse gas emissions related to modal shifts. However, this still does not go far enough. This is where asset management is a key tool to accelerating environmental sustainability and climate change concerns across the corporation. Asset management provides an opportunity for sustainability targets to be embedded in corporate decision-making. This integration eliminates the common reality of sustainability staff having to lobby for specific actions on an ad hoc basis. In late 2015, the City of Windsor joined FCM's Leadership and Asset Management Program. Our team consisted of our Senior Manager of Asset Planning, an Asset Coordinator, our Manager of Contracts, Field Services, and Maintenance, and ourselves. This team brought together experience from capital projects, operations, and environmental sustainability to create a robust asset management policy and framework that addresses concerns across the corporation. This updated asset management plan was approved by Council in October 2017. I want to highlight a couple of the key statements in our asset management policy, including the term community assets. As a team, we had significant discussions over the language of infrastructure. We felt that the term infrastructure could lead to a misconception that all we need to address is our gray infrastructure, for example, our sewers, roads, and playgrounds. However, just as important is our trees, wetlands, and natural areas. This led to the term community assets. The policy also states that when making decisions regarding our assets, we will select the best investment by considering the asset's life cycle cost, level of risk, and agreed upon level of service. Asset management provides a substantial opportunity to address a changing climate over the long term. Using the best available science and proven innovation along with provincial and federal guidance documents, the City is going to identify climate risks and determine how those risks may impact a community asset over its intended life. Climate change and climate change activities or actions will be considered while managing both the physical and natural assets, as well as ensuring or improving the level of service being delivered. By doing this, we aim to improve the coping and the resiliency range of our assets while minimizing the risk of failure. It will also be important to determine how a changing climate may affect the triple bottom line or the life cycle costing of community assets. Measures for mitigating climate change must also be considered. Staff will have a general understanding of how climate change impacts community assets. The next steps for the City of Windsor will be to standardize a method of life cycle costing. Life cycle costing will be an important tool as we strive to reduce our energy and greenhouse gas emissions. Adapting a city-wide requirement to include energy and carbon costs as part of the operating costs enables climate considerations to be embedded in the decision-making process to support the broader corporate climate goals and targets. As we move forward, other opportunities will present themselves to better embed environmental sustainability and climate change considerations into the asset management framework. One of the challenges we still will be facing is our public engagement. A number of our climate change goals are going to be reliant on the public to participate in. So, for example, our basement flooding subsidy program, where we try and get the public to protect themselves as part of our corporate strategy to reduce flooding. So that's going to be another challenge we have to figure out how to work through. So at this point, I guess I can open this up to any questions. I also plan to be in at the FDM conference in February, and open to have any conversations with anybody there as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Karina. So we've had some back and forth on the Q&A with Angela, and I see Alex has just posted a question for Karina. Does the City of Windsor offer student co-ops? Does the City of Windsor offer student co-ops climate risk and asset management? So I think the question is related to do you take on students, co-op students in climate risk and asset management?
Our asset management department already retains a student, as well as we retain a student. I have not so far hired a student for that department like I have for our parks and our planning department. But there's always possibilities of that being a very good fit as we move forward and basically looking at each of our assets and figuring out how we are going to embed it. So there is always those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll just invite anyone else who has questions to type them in. Have you experienced any specific challenges around sort of bringing together all of the different departments who normally might not collaborate as part of your work on the Leadership and Asset Management Program or subsequently, or have you found that it's opened up new opportunities for you in terms of how you communicate across departments?
I think it's provided, I've been very lucky in my role in the city of having good cooperation across the corporation, partly because I think we're already experiencing the impacts of climate change, not just this year, but historically. So that conversation's always been very easy at the city. However, I do find that through the asset management lens, it's going to open up, or at least by embedding those questions, as people are looking at projects and saying, okay, they might just be designing, for example, a road, and it might not be crossing their mind to think about climate change, but once they feed that through our triple bottom line and life cycle costing, and asking the climate question, they might think differently about their project. So it's going to provide us with further opportunity to collaborate where we might not have in the past. So I think that's the big positive is that, excuse me, by having that climate change question in there, it can only make our capital projects and even our operational policies more resilient, as we can look back at what we've done, but also look forward to saying how do we deal with what's coming at us. So it's just opening that up to everybody. And again, it's not going to be myself running around trying to do this for all the projects, because it's going to be embedded. And along with that, there's going to have to be the educational part across the corporation, so we're all looking at the same future projections.
Hi, Karina. This is Alex. Robin's phone just went. It just died. So I'll be moderating a couple of other questions for you.
Okay.
Someone was wondering whether the City of Windsor is collaborating with other cities at a regional scale, or collaborating with the City of Detroit on any of this.
So on the regionally, so in the county level, our Conservation Authority is just embarking on their climate change adaptation project. So there will be collaboration moving forward. As of right now, within our very southwestern area, it has been us. But we have collaborated with Ontario municipalities and across the country as well on specific projects. And what was the second half of your question, Alex?
There was a question about whether there was collaboration with the City of Detroit.
Oh, City of Detroit. So we did have through our, when we developed our Heat Alert and Response program, there was collaboration with the City of Detroit because we want to make sure that we're aligning our messaging, since the City and the City of Windsor and the City of Detroit usually share the same media. So how do we coordinate those messages? So it's At this point, it's been limited to our extreme heat events, and as well as our emergency managers work closely with them on other hazards, but we haven't worked very closely with them on our overall climate change strategy.
Great. That's really interesting on the media side of things, because it can definitely play a big role in how the public reacts to these climate problems. I guess another question, again, with regards to collaboration, is are you engaging with local community groups to identify and monitor sustainability issues or opportunities?
Yes, we actually have, within our 3 plans, we kind of have like 3 different stakeholder groups. Our community energy plan is the most recent, and it's a very active multi-jurisdictional community task force that we've been engaging through the development of our plan, as well as now as we move into implementation. We also work closely with the appropriate community groups on our environmental sustainability work as we move forward in that. And we always, our challenge is the one-on-one with the public. So when I speak into those challenges, in our climate change adaptation plan, you know, we speak to, or we have basement flooding subsidy program, where we're trying to encourage people to install a backwater valve and a sump pump with overflow, and we're getting very little uptake. And it's, you know, and we've had, you know, YouTube videos and media releases, and we just can't seem to get the numbers up. So that actually becomes, that basement flooding subsidy program becomes part of our resiliency on our capital projects. And if we can't get the public to participate, then how do we then shift how we're going to manage our extreme rainfall events? So that's more the challenge. It's the one-on-one with the public homeowner that we're challenged with.